Welcome to another episode of Living Your Sparked Second Half. Today, I have another case study. Well, I have two. So I did an interview with two people at the same time, and I did this interview because these women both went on to make what their passion was into a business. And that's not always the case, but I would like to have examples for you to see. And also like to say the passion usually starts with dabbling in an interest. It's something that sparks you. Like I said in my free training I just did, you have two things that make you happy: interesting things that you're doing that are on your to-do list, and things that they have to have meaning as well. What's the deeper meaning? Because you can be interested in something and start it but never finish it, like sign up for something or and maybe not move on to the next level of whatever that thing is. But dabble in things, find what's interesting to you. And if you like it, then keep going, keep doing it, keep learning more, keep applying what you're learning, and find the meaning in it. Find why you do it, because why you do it is why you keep doing it. And it has to have internal meaning to you and not because you're doing it for somebody else. Now, you might be doing it because you're interested in it and it helps somebody else. So I'm thinking right now, like, I like helping you because I like these podcasts. So that's helping you, but that's a deeper meaning to me because it's helping somebody shift. I think about a recent podcast guest I had, and because her husband got ill, she went and got to be an expert in brain health. It was helping him, but it was helping other people. And that had meaning to her internally. Subject she was interested in helped other people. It's just more meaning. And so Diede is one example. Gail Johnson is the other example. And Diede was an accountant her whole life, 30 some years as an accountant. And then she became a novelist, full-time novelist now in her 50s. Pretty crazy. She's now writing her second book series. Her whole first book series was written while she had a full-time job that she was scared to leave and scared to retire from, even though she had found her purpose, her I call rest of life purpose. And she continued to work in a job that was keeping her from her passion. We stay in our comfort zone because that's what's comfortable. And we're so afraid of expanding out of it, even when we know what's out there. Most of us don't know what's out there, and that keeps us inside. But what if you found it? And what if you're brave enough to go all in on it? So she finally did. And somebody I like to use an example in my free training because that's what holds us back is this fear. And now she wishes she had done it sooner, which is usually the case. And then there's Gail, who had something inside of her from birth. And at first she tried to avoid it. She thought there was something wrong with her. She's a medium. She's very gifted. And she actually did a session with my mom and me. And we connected with my grandmother, my mother's mother, and my father, which was my goal, is to connect with my father. And it was incredible. I also did an episode on that. But these two women are so they're purpose driven. I talk about the 6 purpose personas in my free training. I recently talked about them on a podcast episode, but these people are purpose driven. These women are purpose driven. They found their purpose. It's driving them with deep, deep satisfaction and fulfillment, making them very happy. And they're super interested in what they're doing, and it has loads of meaning to them. And for Gail, what I love about Gail is that she was doing client work when we first met. And to be honest, when she joined the Second Half Spark School, I didn't even know she was a medium. I thought she said she was creative. It is creative when you connect with people who have passed. Yes, I would say that. But I didn't know a lot of details about what she did. And then we ended up working together in a one-on-one situation. She hired me as her coach, and we got her program launched. She has a program called Hope, and she helps people who are suffering from a loss, and she teaches them how to have hope again. And it's amazing. She has this program. She was so committed and so all in with getting that program off the ground. And it was amazing to watch. And what the problem is when you work one-on-one with people, you can't scale that to help more people. And our goal was to help more people. How can I reach more people? And so we figured out a way for her to do that. Now she has a program. So these two people are such great examples of what is possible. And another thing I said in the free training that I want to touch on is we always think that about the destination, that where we have to get to, and it's so far to get there, but it's the journey. The passion comes with the journey. Yeah, we're always going to be striving to get somewhere, but every time you get somewhere, you want to go somewhere else. You want to you want to it's like that goalpost keeps changing, because as we grow and as we reach goals, realize we gain confidence and we realize we're capable of more. So the destination actually keeps changing and moving forward. So it's in the journey where we have to find the fulfillment and the pleasure and the joy. And so these two women found that first, and then they worked towards something bigger. And that's what they're doing now. And so these people are examples of what's possible once you fully embrace what you're here to do and you start doing it. So without further ado, here's the replay of the episode I did with Diede and Gail Johnson. Welcome to another episode of Living Your Sparked Second Half. And I have two great examples of sparked second half souls. I love that term. I came up with that term because of my second half spark school. And I have people here as my guests who are students. I have Kimberly Diede and Gail Johnson. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yes. And so I like to say once my student, always my students, although when we're not actively in the program, we don't get to see each other. And so it's a real treat for me to have them here and be able to chat with them. We've been chatting before I hit record and just catching up. So I should let them each introduce themselves, but I did want to say that they are both fully living and embracing their purposes. And they are just amazing people. One of the things that I love about my students that I was just telling them is that I learn so much from my students, no matter where they are in their journey. But for Kim and Gail in particular, since their journeys are fairly advanced and they're pretty living full out in their purpose and what they came here to do, I have started reading fiction. Kim writes books. She's a book author and novelist, I guess. I don't know. Is that the right word? Novelist. And Kim got me back into listening fiction books because I was like a self-help addict. But sometimes it's really great to escape in a fiction book. So she got me turned on to fiction books. So I am a customer of hers. And Gail is a medium, and we work together on her building a program so she could impact more people. And we'll get into that. But after we were done, I realized like she could really help me. And she helped me connect with my father. And I did an episode on that, which I can link up to as well. So let me stop talking and introduce you guys, let you introduce yourselves. And so let's start with Kim and tell everybody about yourself and what you do.
Well, thank you for having me on, Lori. This has been fun in the past, and I know it'll be fun today too. As you mentioned, I write novels. My characters are all midlife and later. I actually first met Lori, I think it's been 2.5 years ago now, and joined the Second Half Spark School at a point in my life where I was in a corporate job, had been there for over 30 years, and was pretty miserable. The job had changed and evolved, the company had evolved, and I had discovered a couple of years before that I really enjoyed writing. I was always an avid reader. I'm a mother of three, and our kids were getting older and going off to college and getting married. And I picked up a pen, actually probably a computer, and started writing just for fun. Like Lori, for the first, I would say throughout most of my 40s, I was addicted to self-help books, that kind of thing. Tried to read fiction, wasn't finding books that I liked. So many of the characters were so much younger and not really at the point in life that I could relate to as much anymore. So I thought, hey, let's just write for fun. And that's all it was initially. And eventually it grew into a new career for me. And I was close. I had, I think, a couple books out, Lori, by the time we met. Um, I so wanted to make that leap, but I was terrified. I was too scared to leave my corporate job. I'd been there a long time. We had our benefits through me. I would have been, what, 51, 52 at the time.
Mhm.
And I was just too scared to do it. And the nice thing, Lori and I really were in sync in the fact that she came from a corporate background as well. She had found the courage to leave that, and she knew it was possible. And I guess sometimes those examples can be the most powerful thing, right?
Yeah.
And so, Lori, you really gave me the encouragement and the practical advice. Hey, look into this, look into that. And last October, I was able to retire at 55.
Yeah, I wanna speak to that because I never wanna give advice for what somebody should do, but
Mhm,
it was so scary for me, so it was I could so relate to the position that you were in,
mhm,
and so what I would always speak to you is because we always look at what we're gonna lose versus what we're gonna gain, and we can't
mhm.
see that because we have no familiarity with it, and of course, our human brain's always trying to protect us, so it's always gonna be like worst case scenario, and so I would just try to present the picture and some of the things that were, my coach coached me through when I was going through and trying to decide. You just always think it's either or. And there's all kinds of ways of like you could go part-time, you could maybe consult or you could try it. And if it doesn't work, find another job. We always think it's like an A or a B, and the mind just kind of limits us because if it's not within our experience of knowing and we can't sit with it and just like, oh, maybe my brain could, and maybe the universe will send me an example of something that's totally different that I hadn't thought of. Your
So,
other thing too is your job was so different. Like you were
right.
in a banking, like in a
I was
more
in
of
banking. I did accounting and finance for over 30 years. So who was I to think I could now write fiction books about families and romance and all that? But I'd read them for years, and what better training is there than that? And so I did find the courage, I made the leap, and I have never been happier. And some of the things I worried about haven't come to pass. Other things have come up to take care of the things I was worried about, and zero regrets. So I just couldn't be happier. And, it's just so fun. I love to try to encourage other women at midlife to chase their dreams. That's a lot about what I write about in my novels, too.
yeah.
And so,
Yeah, and one of the things we do in the second half Spark School, which I always thought was interesting for you because uh I want to write a book. And so I thought, oh,
mhm,
like maybe Kim can teach me, but a novel is, I probably write more of a self-help book. But so we had some conversations about, hey, would you want to help other people? Maybe you
mhm,
could create a course and all that kind of stuff. But in the personality testing we do in the school, you found out that that's not aligned with you, who you
right,
are and who you're meant to be. You're a maker, and the making is in the writing of the books. And so how I thought that was so fascinating, and it helped me understand as a coach that I love these things that we have as tools because they offer insight, and you could waste a lot of time going down unaligned or misaligned path. So
right.
yeah, so that's cool. All right, Gail, I want
Right,
to
that's
move
a
over
hard
to you.
act to follow.
uh, yes.
I do something completely different. I'm Gail Johnson, and I am able to communicate with deceased loved ones, angels, spirits, spirit guides. That's what I do. And I too was in the corporate world a long time ago and received the message that I needed to quit my job and just do my mediumship full time. And, when I got, I was like, okay, send me a sign, right? And so I get a sign, and then I'm like, okay, send me another one, right? Because it's like, okay, I'm not so sure, but it was very scary. But in October of 2014, is when I actually quit my job. Because the message was, when have I ever abandoned you? When have I ever led you astray, right? And I've really not looked back since. And then as I was doing all the one-on-one, I kept hearing a lot of the same things from people, that they were searching and they were looking for something, that connection. And that's, of course, what I help people to do, is to connect with something bigger than them, with their deceased loved ones, with their angels, whatever. And so I kept hearing, more and more of that. And I was like, I need to try to help more people. I'm doing it on a one-on-one basis, but I kept feeling, I guess, drawn to more, doing something more, maybe something bigger. And that's when I saw your Facebook ad, and what drew me in was the Not Your Average Grandma. That was what drew me in first. But then I don't know what I expected it to be, but I didn't expect it to be what you delivered, right? So I went in thinking one thing, and then it was really kind of a lot of the same things that I kind of preach and teach, were a lot of the things that you were saying as well. And so that helped me to see that, hey, I can do this. You're doing it. Why can't I do it? But I was too afraid. Fear was withholding, me. I didn't have the confidence. I guess I didn't have the I felt like what it took. I didn't know anything about a business. I didn't know anything about doing an online business, especially. And so I came up with the program, but I just didn't know how to go about doing what I wanted to do. And I was afraid. And I feel like you gave me the courage. You showed me that it could be done, that we are, it was truly helpful for me to see that I am limitless, that I can do it, that I'm not, I don't need to be, I don't know, stuck in a rut, or not be continue to contribute, that I am still valuable.
Mhm.
All of those things, because I think that's important for us as older women. And I just turned 60, I say just turned in July. I turned 60, and I think I met Lori a couple of years ago. I was in the May, I think I joined in May a couple of years ago. And so anyway, it can be done. I'm still doing it. I still have people asking me, when are you going to run it again? I want to be a part of that. So I think that that's important, to know that we're still contributing. And then I'm just going to say this, take it a step further, and I'm not tooting my own horn. I want y'all to know that y'all can do this, you know.
Mhm.
So y'all can see I'm overweight. I'm not the best athlete or anything, I'm not in great shape. But I walked part of the Camino in October, and at one point, we came to a place where I called it the rock gauntlet, because it was rocks on nothing but rocks, and it was straight down. And I have trouble with balance, a little bit of trouble with balance as well. So going down is not easy for me. But I went down that rock gauntlet. It took me a long time. It took a lot of effort, but I was able to do it. And when I got to the bottom, I was like, I can't believe I just did that. But of course, as I was going, I was like asking my guardian angel to lend me her wings, right? Give me your wings, I need to get down this. But I believed that I could do it. It was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I believe in myself. I believe that I have the help that will help me to get down without being injured. I was very thankful because it wasn't raining, but I got to the bottom. And so now when I go to do something, I'm like, is it as bad as the rock gauntlet? Nope. It's like nothing will be as bad as that, right? So now I'm like, nope. And now I just feel like, well, I can do after that, I can do anything.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that saw you posted the pictures in the group and I thought that was amazing. Such inspiration and such courage, right? But one of the things I wanted to say that you two really have in common, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you on here is because you're not like my normal student. So I just want to get that out there. A lot of my normal students who come in are kind of searching. They're not sure of their purpose, or they're resisting it. They haven't stepped into it yet. They might have an inkling of it. But that's why I created this, and I've changed the name a couple of times. I think when Kim came in, it was Accelerator, but I'm calling it Expansion. And so it gives you an opportunity, if you find it and you want to accelerate in whatever way. Maybe you want to have a business. Maybe you just want to accelerate the adventure, because the purpose is activity. This is what I came to know, is that purpose is in the doing, not in the destination. So yeah, I think that a lot of people get caught up and it's this like, oh, it's so far out there and it's so unattainable. But if they just start doing something that interests them, then they'll get there. And so some people start it and they're like, and they want to continue and they want more immersive coaching and that sort of thing. So you guys are kind of in that more advanced group. But one thing you have in common, you're so service and heart driven. That's what purpose is all about. We do things on purpose, but it has to be of purpose. I have something on my to-do list, and yeah, if I know I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it on purpose, right? But it doesn't necessarily have that heart in it. And so I think that's what's missing. That's what missed most of my life. But both of you, in our first conversations, Kim, actually, she reached out to me in my newsletter just to say, I love what you're doing. I wish everybody could be as purpose driven as you. And she had a friend who wasn't. So, she was just like reaching out just to be nice. And then I was like, well, what do you do? Because I was curious. Well, if your friend isn't and you are, what do you do? And so she didn't even say, hey, I'm an author, I want to buy my book. It was like, she was just being nice to me, being kind. And I said, what do you do? And she goes, oh, I'm an author. And I was like, well, what do you write? And you'd be a good guest for my podcast. And that's actually how we first met. And I had her on my podcast, and she sent me a book. She didn't sell me a book. She didn't say, oh, I'll send you the first chapter, and if you like it, you can buy it. It was like a gift to me, I guess, for having her on my podcast. But it was just, that is the kind of person that is doing something because they really love to and they want to make an impact. And when you do that, it comes back to you. And with you, Gail, you're so service oriented that you were killing yourself, I think. And I remember when we met, because you didn't sign up initially.
No.
I had a Zoom call, and I can understand why, because like I said, you're a little further advanced and you're probably like, I don't know if that's a good fit for me. But in our Zoom call, something happened where I got the feeling through our conversation that you weren't where you wanted to be, and that I knew that my help would get you further faster. But I had no idea you're a medium. I thought, looking back, you said you were a creative. I think you said that, which, you're in the creative. Yeah. Yeah. And I thought, I thought you were a seamstress or you were an artist, or it was that kind of creative thing that I was thinking about. So when I realized you're a medium, I was like, oh, holy moly. And then I had also wanted to, I had this thought deep in the recesses of my mind of wanting a medium for my mom and my dad, to connect my dad with my mom. My dad's dead and my mom's still alive, and she's super stuck. And I thought maybe that'll help her. And so it's so funny, because do you look up 1-800-medium, and then who do you know what you're going to get, And so here I built this relationship, and then you hired me as like a one-on-one coach. And then we worked together on you building your Hope program. And the other thing that shows how service oriented you are is that you hustled. I can't tell you how many one-on-one clients that I have that stall and push their launches back or are afraid to take action. And you were just like, I got to do this before Christmas. I got to do this before Christmas. And it was a crunch. but you wanted to do it before Christmas because you knew people needed you because they were suffering. And I thought, how beautiful is that? That's how I know somebody is driven by their heart and that they're doing what they're supposed to do, is because it doesn't matter. It's not about them. It's about who they're striving to help. And I remember for you, and where you had the challenge is Kim's audience pretty defined, midlife. I read her books and I'm like, oh my God, I want to jump in it and be there and hang out with them. Right. But you can help everybody, right? Because everybody pretty much has lost somebody they love. And so for you, it was like, how do I whittle down into something that can help all of these people? What's the topic? Because you are such an expert in your field and you talk and help in so many different areas. And so I love how you very quickly realized that people need hope after they've lost somebody. They need hope. And then you came up with your acronym and you came up with your structure and your formula. And it was like, whoosh. And though, yeah. And the other thing is that I think for you, because of the work you do, it really zaps your energy. And you needed to find a way to help people in more of a group format. Yeah, you still can do one-on-ones, but how can you help more people? And then you built that community, how they all connected. I remember her telling me that she had a young person in the group and older people in the group, and how you thought you were worried because they didn't have, but when you have a connection, you have a connection. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's amazing how when you finally say yes, all the doors open, all the obstacles are removed. When you I think it's in a Course in Miracles, it says, you need oh no, it's Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell says you have to give a hearty yes. Once you give the hearty yes, then everything else to your hero's journey. That's what it's about, a hero's journey. Once you give that hearty yes, once you say yes, then just the floodgates open and all the obstacles are removed. And that's what I found happened when I finally said, I can do this. And okay, all right, I'm going to say, okay, universe, let's do this. As soon as I said, okay, let's do this, that was it. The floodgates opened, and then just one thing happened after the other that enabled me to do what I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And you
it's
didn't
just
charge
saying
very
yes.
much. And so for what you do, in my opinion, I was like, you need to raise your prices. So, but when you're service oriented, you don't want to. But I loved when you did it, and you had a really small mailing list. I mean, and they're just people that you'd done one-on-one sessions with in the
Right.
past. I don't even think you had a mailing list. You had a spreadsheet that
I
you
had
had
a
email.
spreadsheet
Yeah, you
with
had a
emails.
spreadsheet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she said, like, do you have an email? Well, I saved them in a spreadsheet. I was like, okay, maybe you need to get a mail system. But anyways, but I loved that. But I loved also that you said, and I'm curious if you had guilt around it, but you said, I've never made this much money. Yeah.
Oh, and that's true. I had never made that much doing something like that. In the corporate world, it was different, but I had
Right.
never done it on my own,
Mhm.
just me. And I always have guilt around the money. And
Yes.
I just feel like this is something that everybody needs, that I should just be helping everybody that I can help. And you're right, I halfway kill myself. My children fuss at me all the time and say, you're so tired all the time. You need to stop doing so many, whatever, like you need to just slow down. And I'm like, and I know that I'm going to do this until I can't anymore. I'll help as
Mhm.
many as I can until I can't anymore. But that's just who I am. But I do, because it's like, really, I'm getting paid for this. Like
Yeah.
it's like I
Yeah.
should be getting
Yeah.
paid for this, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just how I feel about it.
And this is pretty normal for people who are really focused on service first. It's super normal. And in
Mhm.
some ways people self-sabotage because the guilt kind of is a subconscious, it's rooted thing. But you just need to shift the mindset to knowing that the money that you make helps you get support to help more people. It can
Mhm.
help you start a nonprofit. A lot of people might mindset, my person who taught me the neuro coaching, who I got certified with, she has a nonprofit that gives education to AIDS orphans in Uganda. I have an orphan that I support every month through her program.
Mhm.
So your money doesn't have to be just for your own personal gain to go buy a Chanel bag or something, it can be like, and if you hire some,
I do give a lot of it away,
yeah,
I support a
yeah,
lot of charities or whatever,
yeah,
because I feel like that's what I need to do, right? I'm making it, I have extra, I need to share my extra. But that's how I was raised as well,
yeah.
So
Yeah, my coach, he shares his story because he helps so many people with his program, but he has a VA in the Philippines that he started with before he made a lot of money. And he started with this VA and now he employs his whole family,
wow. Yeah.
and it's been almost 10 years that this guy who's like grown with him in the Philippines. And that's a pretty incredible. And that can make you also want to help more people because it's like that you have this capability. It's more than about you, and it's not just your customers, but it's the people that you can employ through it and help in deeper ways. So that was a good discussion. I'm glad we had that. I would love for you to share what you learned about yourself in pushing through these fears that are very common. Everybody has them. It's just, are you going to sit with them and stay in your little comfort zone? So yeah. So Kim, why don't you start and share, how did you conquer your fears and what did you learn about yourself in the process?
I've learned so much. You helped me to see the value in looking ahead and what I wanted my life to look like a year from that time, 5 years from that time. And I wasn't used to doing that thing. Any goals that I'd set before were based on what the business wanted, that where I worked. So I learned the value of that. I learned that I can do hard things. I learned that I'm so much more incredibly energized now that I'm doing work that I love. And I feel like I can make a difference. You're for sure not the first person who's told me that I've gotten them back into reading. I was at a book club one day, and the woman sitting next to me, who I didn't know, made the comment that she hadn't read since her husband passed away. And then she picked up my first book and read it, and she said now she hasn't stopped reading every single day. So I mean, we can all make a difference in other ways. I worried about what other people would think, and I've had no negative feedback from that perspective. If anything, I think we're setting an example. I'm learning that I'm setting an example on how I live my life every day. I saw too many people in the corporate world just coasting through their 50s and till they're sometime in their 60s or 70 when they decided to just hang it up. But those were not very happy years, and that made me so sad
Mm-hmm.
because we have so much more wisdom than we ever did when we were younger, and so much value to offer the world. But if you're stuck in doing something that doesn't light you up, it's hard to encourage others.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe my last comment would be that I know my kids are watching too. They're all young adults starting in their careers. And, they'd watched me be miserable for too long. I didn't want them to think that's what work has to be.
Yeah.
So they comment all the time that I'm a different person.
Yeah.
And so,
I didn't see you as miserable, but I just saw you as mediocre meandering. You're just
yeah,
meandering through life, allowing mediocre. And your comment about energized, when you fully embrace and get in alignment, it's like then people are like, I can't get motivated. You're not aligned. And so I love that they've seen that because they're benefiting so much from that, not just from seeing you, but from being in your energy, being in your sphere, you
right.
know? And now you have a grandchild.
I do. I
Yeah.
wasn't a grandma yet when I started, but he's almost one and he's amazing. So,
Yes. And yeah,
life
and
keeps
you live,
going.
and doesn't he live next door?
He does.
And
He
so
does.
like that's crazy. Number one, small town
Yeah.
thing that it doesn't happen anymore. But can you imagine if you didn't have time for him? with your
Oh, no.
yeah,
That would be
the
so
corporate
bad.
job? Yeah.
Mhm. Now
Yeah.
when the roads are really bad, because 'cause we're in North Dakota, and if, it's too nasty out to take him to daycare, then, "Oh, I'll watch him because I can now." I have
Yeah.
that time. Time freedom
Mhm.
is way more valuable than any money that we make with what we're doing, and that's another thing that I've learned,
And that is what?
to kind of do things where you own your own schedule,
Yes.
and I work super hard, but I can do that, but also have a life.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so it's just been a wonderful learning. And I learn new stuff every day.
Yeah. All right, Gail, what have you learned about yourself
Uh,
along the way?
just feel
Yeah.
like I've learned so many things that, like I said, that I am valuable, that I do have what it takes, that I do have the intelligence, I guess, the smarts to be able to do it. I learned that I am adjustable, I guess, that I can
Mhm.
adjust to situations, and I'm good with learning curves. I mean, I had to learn all the technology and everything to be able to do what I had to do. So, I mean, I did it, I learned
Yeah, you
all
did
the,
do it. And
you
I
know,
remember you were like,
the,
"Rah!" You're a good example of somebody who is not technologically savvy and you figured it out.
yeah, you do what you have to do. And
Yeah.
I guess my biggest thing is I learned how I really am determined. I've never thought of myself as having a lot of determination or drive, or, whatever you want to call it. But when it comes to this, I am very determined. I have the drive. I want this to be told, I want to shout it from the rooftops. I want everybody to be involved. And I just feel like that's, really important. And like Kim said, you energized, like I can do, I get tired after doing my one-on-one, sure. But, when I'm with my hope group, and I mean, I could be in that group all night long, us, like talking and discussing and, learning together. And like, that's something that time just flies by. When you're doing what you love,
Mhm.
there's no limit.
Yeah, that's called
You-
being in the flow. If people have ever
yeah,
heard of being in the flow. And
just,
determination is actually one of the words that is in the definition for purposeful. So,
oh,
yeah.
there you
Yeah.
go.
So that's amazing. And you guys are both so talented. Like I said, I'm so lucky to know you. My students are my buddies. Everybody is so unique. And that's the other thing that I want to speak to is that these two women are in the 2%. And I talked about this in the training that 98% of the population does not leave their comfort zone. They're too afraid to make changes. And that's kind of the way the brain works. And unfortunately, people just aren't aware of what causes it and how to push through it. But when you find your purpose, it's kind of like this armor, I feel like, that helps you push through that barrier. And you all have done it. And like Gail said in the beginning, if you're listening to this and you're like feeling like a mediocre meanderer, then you can be a 2%er. You can be a 2%er. It just, I think the first step is awareness, and the second step is understanding that's what needs to be done, and finding that thing, that activity that lights you up.
Lori, let me just say that I heard that from so many people. You can do it. You can do it. I was like, oh, yeah, right. I'm tired of people telling me that. So I don't want people to poo poo that or whatever, or just set that aside. Because I know for a long time when I would hear people say, oh, you can do it was like, yeah, you could do it. Maybe not me. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, you were able to do it because whatever reasons, you had this, you had that, you had the other thing. I want folks to know I was a mediocre meanderer. I was the one, I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. I didn't think I had what it took or whatever. But like you said, because I have this purpose, I have this thing that I know means something. This means something. It means not just something to me. I feel like it means something to everybody. And I know folks are going to say, oh, well, you have this natural ability. So that's why you can do what you do. But you just got to find what lights you up, like you say. You have to find that thing that means something to you. And once you find out what that is, that has that meaning, everything else is going to come along with it. Then you can do it too.
Yeah,
I
that's so
agree.
great.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely in the 98% for a really long time. And you mentioned it before, Lori, I was an accountant. I didn't know what my purpose was. I never dreamt in a million years that I would fall in love with writing stories. I just like to read them to escape. But if you don't look, you're not going to find it.
Mm.
And, I love that the programs and the modules you put together and such just help us do a lot of introspection and gentle guidance on things to consider and think about, and you might surprise yourself.
Well, I think we think it's going to come, but we don't realize how many blocks we have that are so invisible. And that's one of the things I'm putting in this new training that I am excited about, that they're just invisible to us. And once they're visible, then we kind of know what we're dealing with. And because we live, and I think this was my problem, and I see it with a lot of people, is that we fill our schedules up with busy stuff.
Yeah.
And when we're so busy, then a lot is invisible. Yeah.
You're talking about schedules. So that's the thing that you really helped me with. Let me just say, I'm not a planner. I'm a fly by the seat of the pantser.
Winger. We call him a winger.
I am just not a planner. I was never a planner. And you really, really helped me with that, and realizing, first of all, how to do it, just how to go about making a plan, how to look at things and how to plan things out and take things, month, week, day, decide what's most important and do it. And that's really what really helped me to go so quickly and launch my
Oh.
program and everything so quickly, was because I had a plan. I knew how to plan, and I was able to plan it,
Yeah.
and I had a good plan, and I followed the plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
We had dates and
so,
everything. But
yeah.
yeah, I think I'd love to hear your opinion, because for me, I tried so many different plans, and so many of them, they actually overwhelmed me. And I come from a planning profession as a
Mhm.
project manager. And so I just wanted something super simple. And I found, and I find, and I tell people this, and I hear it from my students, but I have you here. So, you know, you can say what you want, but I feel like people think that it's going to take more time of their day. And I feel like gives me the gift of more time by knowing and having a structure.
Right. I agree with that. I have to say, like on Sunday night is usually when I take the time for the week anyway. I'll look at what am I supposed to be doing this month. The beginning of the month I do the end of one month I'm planning the next month, but I sit and I look at it and I go, okay, and then I see all the places where I have time to do other things. Like as you're looking at this and you go, oh, well, I can do this or I can do that. And if you follow it, that's the key, because I have been known not to follow it, and then you get off the beaten track, whatever. The other thing is, as far as the plan that you gave us, you gave us a good one. And then once I took yours and I used yours for a long time, but then I sort of customized it to me,
Yeah, great. Yeah.
so now it's part yours, part mine,
Yes.
so,
Yes. Yeah. One size
so,
doesn't necessarily fit all.
right.
Yeah. You built this new habit, which is amazing.
You have to do it the way you work, I guess,
Yes. I love that. I
so,
love that perspective. Definitely.
And the
Awesome.
other
But you're
thing
not a
I
winger
learned,
anymore, huh?
yeah,
no.
I also found a lot of benefit. I love the simplicity and got it down, but then I did feel a sense of accountability to you and the other students in our group. I didn't want to disappoint. I had committed to doing this and to moving forward. And the plan allowed us to have something measurable that we could speak to and feel like we're making progress, even if it was just baby steps.
Yeah.
So that was very helpful too.
Isn't that interesting though, and I found this with myself as well. and why I continue to have a coach and be in a program is because we are more apt to stay in integrity with other people than with ourselves.
We'd like to be able to do it ourselves, but sometimes that's not that easy to do.
Yeah. If we were meeting ourselves for lunch, we'd probably be the first person to cancel. All right. Any last words of advice or tips or anything that you want to share before we say goodbye?
I just love that the focus on it's not too late for any of us.
Yes. Yes,
We have-
everybody is, and that's why I like my podcast, because a lot of the people that I talk to are people who have made big shifts over
Right.
50.
Yeah, I just listened to I think it's your latest one where a woman went to med school and she,
Yes.
in her 50s. And
Dr.
it was
Lottie,
just,
yeah.
it was just amazing. So, yep, it's not too late. I love that some of your students have been in their later 70s and just really jumping in and learning how to enjoy themselves again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's time to do it.
Yeah. I know. I guess it's Nike that says it best, right? Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
do it. That's all I can say is just do it.
And I just want to end by saying thank you to you guys for really giving me some gifts in what you do, and your purpose has really impacted me. And I just have to share. I know I did an episode about my conversation with my father, but one thing that Gail gave me was, because my dad died suddenly, and my mom basically just kind of curled up and has never really, she just hasn't engaged in life since he died. And he died in 2007. So do the math. And so part of my challenge, and this is what happens when you lose people you love, you can't have that conversation with them after they're gone. And I felt really guilty about not being able to help my mom more. Like, why did she not engage? Why couldn't I help her? Is there more I could have done? Yes, definitely more I could have done. And I often wondered what my dad would say, what my dad would think. And, we know, if we have close relationships with our parents, we know their personalities. And I tell you, Gail, I know, brought my father to me. And we recorded it. It was amazing. So if you're looking for a medium, Gail's the go-to person. My father, first of all, he's very funny, and he was actually mad at my mom. Now, I think if somebody's not really a good medium, they'd probably be like, "Oh, your dad's so happy. He loves you. He loves your mom. Everybody's happy." But Gail was like, "Ooh, this is going to be harsh." And and he gave my mom hell for not engaging in life. And I was like, "That my dad would have done that. My dad would have done that." What I didn't expect of it, because I wanted to connect them, is that I got so much out of it. Like he talked to me, and he talked to me and told me, that he understands. And it was just like, I tell you, so much more valuable than what I paid to get your services. And do you remember you want him to do it for free? And I'm like, no, I am not doing it.
I was going to do it for free. I mean, you
Yeah.
gave me so much,
Yeah.
So.
And Kim's books, like I said, amazing. They're the kind that you put down. And you know what I love about your books, Kim, is they're long.
They are.
Because you don't like,
say.
yeah, because you get invested and you don't want it to end. And so her first series, Celia's Legacy Gifts, Celia's Gifts it's called. Yeah. Celia's Legacy is one of the books, but it's a family, and each book is one of the people in the family. And so it's just so well done. And then her new book series, with book one is out, is about friendships. And I can't wait, because I have lifelong friends from, my college buddies. And so I can't wait to read that. Yeah.
I think as women, we all need family, and we all need our friends, and our friends become so much more important as we age. So.
Yeah. I remember talking about wondering what the concept would be, and I remember
I was in on that conversation too.
I think you were.
Because we were talking about our friends and how I'm still friends with the girls that I went to high school with.
Me too.
And how important that is,
Such a
to
blessing.
me.
Yeah.
So.
All right, ladies, thanks so much for being here and sharing your gifts. And I love you, and I will see you inside the school group. We're always lurking. All right.
Bye, Kim.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Living Your Sparked Second Half podcast. If you'd like to watch my guest interviews, you can find the video version of this podcast on my Not Your Average Grandma YouTube channel. Also, you can check out what I have going on at the moment by going to my website at notyouraverage.grandma.com or find me on Instagram or Facebook at Not Your Average Grandma. If you like this episode, please mention it to a friend, and don't forget to leave a review so I know the topics you like best and can bring you more of that content in upcoming episodes. Last but not least, remember to always listen to that inner voice that will never steer you wrong and make living from the most sparked place possible your biggest priority. When we do that, we make the world a better place.